For me, this economic crisis serves a benefit in that it warns us of other challenges to come. And with the economy, we have ups and we have downs. My concern is with the environment, and it's very similar to the economy. With the economy, we've been living beyond our means and it's caught up with us. Environmentally, the same thing. Our population's growing, our resource base is diminishing, and we're going to see a lot of turmoil in the world as people struggle over diminishing resources. Some of the local impacts, the population of Palo Alto has grown 5% over the last 5 years. A lot of people are concerned about the pressure that's putting on our schools, on our parks, on our community services. Others argue that it's our responsibility to house more of our employees. Palo Alto has about a 2.5 to 1 jobs housing imbalance. So we love having businesses here, especially if it's retail, it brings in sales tax. But at the same time, we don't want the housing here because it's a burden on our general fund, or it's perceived to be a burden on the general fund. We need to look at that from the perspective of our neighbors. If we see it as a burden, neighboring communities will see it as a burden as well. And it's simply not fair for them to have to pick up our housing burden. Am I right, Tony? So that's a challenge that we have. How do we increase revenue without adding to the jobs housing imbalance? Our society has become so dependent on fossil fuels for an overconsumptive lifestyle that I have a lot of fear as we hit peak oil, which we recently did, where more than half of the easily accessible oil has been used. So that's a diminishing resource, and we really need to move towards a renewable energy economy and focus on conservation. And we need to desperately invest in green technology. Silicon Valley is the leader. Palo Alto can be the hub of that. As a result of human activity, we've changed the planet so much that we are now entering a new era in the history of the Earth, the Anthropocene, based on human beings. Climate change, extinction, major disruption of our oceans, forests, and rivers. So the question is, how will we adapt to this? Now, as an environmental educator, I was always trained, don't be too bleak. You gotta give people hope. But the bottom line is the challenges are so fierce right now that we absolutely have to step up to the plate. And Palo Alto has got to be that leader. And that's why my theme this year is regional cooperation for local self-reliance. Because not only do we need to reduce our impacts on the planet, we have to prepare ourselves for a very uncertain future. And we as a council try not to get into the pattern of focusing just on our 4-year term. What we're trying to do is what's best for Palo Altans now and tomorrow. But change can be very challenging. Change can be scary. We have a great city here. We have a wonderful way of life. And when people hear change, they think, well, maybe that's going to change that all around. Climate change, very scary. But there's also change we can believe in, and regime change here at home, as we've all seen. So we have to prepare ourselves for that change. It's going to happen. It can either happen to us or we can direct it. And that's the challenge of this city council and every future city council from now on. And as our city manager would say, it's time to reinvent the American dream. How do we focus on the values of community, on time, on creating a situation where future generations really do have a fighting chance? So I'm very, very pleased that every year I've been on the council, environmental protection has been one of our priorities. A couple of years ago, we passed a climate protection plan with the goal of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 5% by 2012 and 15% by 2020. The city has a goal of reaching 33% of our energy through green energy sources, and that doesn't include hydropower, which is another 50%. So if we get there, we're looking at 83% carbon-free energy, electricity. 20% of Palo Altans have enrolled in Palo Alto Green, 100% renewable energy, mostly wind power. That's fantastic. We're leaders in the country on that. Now, the average monthly utility bill has increased 27% over the past 5 years, and believe me, we hear from the people who are not pleased with that. But our average per capita usage has declined by 2%. And my personal feeling is the way we get to the future that we want is we have to incorporate externality costs in the price structure. The reason brown energy is cheap right now is because we're not paying the true cost. We're spreading those out throughout society, and we're leaving those to future generations. My personal feeling is Palo Alto could possibly take a leadership role in implementing a carbon tax in Palo Alto. If it was just ½ cent a kilowatt hour, our brown energy would be the same cost as our green energy. What would happen? Everyone would shift over. And the key is the revenue raised from that has to go into our rebate programs so the community can take advantage of those, become more energy efficient, take advantage of renewable energy. Their bill, maybe they pay more per kilowatt hour, but the overall bill decreases and everyone's happy, including the environment. I'm also very pleased that we approved a green building ordinance, and this has become a model for other communities. Our legal team has been going to conferences and talking about how it works out. And what we found is the payback time is relatively short. So it saves money in the long run. And for me, I'm always looking for opportunities to save money or generate money in an environmentally responsible way. Right now, the consumer society, where we get a little bit of money from the taxes, just doesn't work. We need to encourage consumption in order to get that revenue, but there are ways around that. We also have a zero waste plan. Our goal is to go from 63% diversion of waste to 73% by 2011 when our landfill closes, and 90% by 2021. And this year we signed a new waste hauling contract with Green Waste. We're going to start composting restaurant waste, food waste from the commercial sector. We're also looking at a ban on plastic bags on May 16th, and that's going to be followed up by a ban on polystyrene if that goes through. So those are some of the things we're doing.